this is that rocky point. This is where they had to blast all the dynamite through. Now the thing with the train, when they completed it, they completed 110 miles of track, Skagway to Whitehorse. When they did it, just 26 months. So it was actually quite a feat at the time. I think these days it probably takes like 26 years just to get the permitting for it. But they did it really fast. Now, if you walked around town, you might have noticed, if you walked across the tracks, that the tracks are narrow gauge. So it's only 3 feet wide. Much less than conventional railroad tracks. So this valley is another good example of just seeing how the glaciers carved this whole area out. Now the train tracks, you'll see there's actually a train on the right there, going back. So the trains can either turn around at the White Pass, just over there on the right, or they're going to come out here to Fraser. Now this lake, this is the first lake we'll see on the right. This is one of the smaller lakes, and the one that's always the last to thaw out. This is Summit Lake.
Due to the fact that we had a baby on board our tour, and I'm kind enough to save everybody's ears, I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys some of the other things that our tour guide had shared with us on this trip. One of the first being that Alaska has some pretty tall mountains. I think it's about 17 of which are the tallest in all of the United States. Alaska is also home to the largest national forest in all of America as well. And with that being said, he was telling us how the willow trees, ironically enough, are actually some of the moose and bear favorites around town. Our guide was also telling us that since we are here in May and visiting kind of in between seasons, that we were visiting obviously between winter and summer, those being the longest seasons of the year, is just due to the winter and summer solstice. And in some areas of Alaska, that means 24 or more hours of daylight in the summer and 24 hours or more of darkness in the winter. So some pretty drastic seasons, but there are some advantages to that, one of which being that in the summer they are able to produce some of the biggest produce that there's ever been recorded, as far as like broccoli and I think cabbage and a few other things he was saying. And there's obviously all this glacier runoff everywhere too, but beyond how much water there is just due to the glaciers melting and the seasonal changes of the snow melt in Alaska, Alaska is also home to the most coastline in all of the United States. So much so that it has more coastline than all of the other 49 states combined.
I believe there's a big bear over here on the right hand side. Try not to scare him away here. We got a bear, a cinnamon bear. This is a black bear that has brown fur. Oh, look at that. We got a bear.
Oh my god, my day is made.
I want to hug it.
Wow, he wants to hop on the bus.
This don't even care, he's just eating.
So they like to eat the vegetation, and they love to eat the dandelions. Now, sometimes what happens is the dandelions, they ferment in the bear's stomach. If they eat too many of the dandelions, they'll get drunk and boozy, and then they'll amble along aimlessly, like they're lost.
He's working on it, that's for sure. Oh, bye, baby.
Wow. Super close.
It's okay. Come here, one sec. Come here. Sam. Come here real quick. Just real quick. What? So you've officially been to Canada and the Yukon territory. What you think? Let's show you guys the Yukon suspension bridge sign. I'll take y'all over to the actual Yukon suspension bridge. We were just on and you have to go back the same way. Say hi. What? There are a plethora of informational signs and infographics and things spread around the Yukon suspension bridge. Unfortunately, though, we didn't have too much time. I think it was maybe an hour to spend here. And so we just tried to see everything that we could. But the one that I was just showing you guys was about Robert Service. He was a very well-known poet from the Yukon region. Well, not from the Yukon region. He wrote about the Yukon region. But I'm going to read you guys a little excerpt that you can kind of see here that reads, "I wanted the gold and I sought it. I scrabbled and mucked like a slave. Was it famine or scurvy? I fought it. I hurled my youth into a grave. I wanted the gold and I got it. Came out with a fortune last fall. Yet somehow life's not what I thought it. And somehow the gold isn't all." I feel like this is bringing that book that I read really alive right now.
Yeah.
Because I was reading about those little caches too, and that's not exactly what I had in mind. The book I was referring to here was The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. However, I would also recommend to read Alaska by James Michner if you can. But here we are looking around a replica cabin of what it would have looked like for many of the gold miners, and just the provisions they might have had and tools that they would have had access to at that time, and how this entire cabin was built without the use of nails. Isn't that amazing? Gonna go back across the suspension bridge now. So I'll take you guys with us. So you can better appreciate what you are seeing and hopefully one day will experience. The Yukon Suspension Bridge is located in northern British Columbia. It is a 200-foot long bridge stretching over the Tucci River Canyon, which is actually something that if you were interested, you can in fact whitewater raft. I'm sure as you heard in some of the previous clips, there is quite a lot of water rushing by pretty much at all times. And depending on the season, the river is either a grade 3 for the majority of it, but it can get up to a grade 5 rapid section. For any of you guys that are adventurous enough to do that, honestly, I don't know that I've done above a grade 3. However, that seems like it would be one heck of a memory to have. As a quick pit stop, we visited Atlin Lake here in British Columbia, which is actually the largest natural lake in the territory.
Smaller lakes, these ones totally freeze over. So a couple weeks ago, this was totally frozen on top. Middle of the winter, the ice gets so thick, you could take this bus onto the lake. This one is really interested in this. No.
Okay, so that is British Columbia, and this is the Yukon territory. Currently on British Columbia side, but why are you laughing at me? That pretty much wraps up our visit to the Yukon. Now we are heading back into the town of Skagway and back into Alaska and America as a whole. And so if you guys ever are interested in visiting, I would highly recommend. We had a lovely time and our guide was absolutely stellar. I feel like we stopped at everything that we possibly can, including Little Bridal Falls and Big Bridal Falls, which you see here. And for anyone with a sweet tooth, a stop to Skagway is not complete without a stop to the Klondike Doughboy, which is home of an Alaskan fry bread. Fry bread is basically a plate-sized piece of dough that is fried and then very generously smothered in cinnamon and sugar, and it is just simply divine. Basically think of like a churro or a beignet for anyone that's from the South. It's just so good. You have to try it. And I promise you, if you wait to the end of the day, the line is not nearly as long. I'm so excited. With the bulk of the cruise passengers back aboard the ships, we just took our time wandering around the town. This building right here is actually the most photographed building in all of Alaska, if I'm not mistaken. And it's not even open, or at least it wasn't open when we were there. I guess so. I feel like a lot of New Yorkers be like, yeah, that looks familiar. The walk back to the cruise ship from the town of Skagway included a few little pit stops, including the statue of a tired miner and his dog, as well as just a brief pit stop as we walked back on by the White Pass Railway train depot through a few of the local parks back towards the cruise ship dock, which ultimately wrapped up our day in Skagway. Next time, I think if I was here, I'd want to do a few more of the adventurous things, such as maybe doing a whitewater rafting excursion and or using the White Pass Railroad to get you up to some of the hiking trails higher up in the mountains. Okay, so we are about to leave Skagway. We went to the White Pass Railway and also took a bus tour up to the Yukon. Both of which I've already told you guys were amazing and I would do it again, honestly. But kind of got cut off by some of the rowdier neighbors out on their balconies as we were departing from Skagway. And so with that, I will leave you guys with some clips of the scenery as we depart this beautiful landscape and move on to our next stop of Glacier Bay, as well as a few clips from the entertainment aboard the cruise ship. Unfortunately, I won't say they do it the best of justice. However, there is amazing performers all throughout. So feel free to just wander on about, and I'm sure you'll find something enjoyable to watch and listen to.
He must be before.
Down that you found a girl, Mary that your dreams came true. 'Cause she gave me
No, you're good.
I wouldn't give to you.